This episode of Philly Fame TV is sponsored by Top Dog Law. Now y'all already know who to call for any accidents or injury cases. If you want that top dollar, you better get that Top Dog. You can hit him up on Instagram at Top Dog Law or visit his website www.topdoglaw.com. Philly Fame. Yeah, welcome to Philly Fame TV. You know, we starting this new series, Where Are They Now? What Happened to? Diving into the history of some of the Philly legends a lot of people may have been familiar with back in the day and, you know, probably disappeared from the scene. And, you know, some people might be wondering what happened to them or, you know, where they at now and stuff like that. So we want to start this one off with Philly's Most Wanted, because I feel like they got a, you know, interesting story, and they like one of the unsung groups in Philly history that a lot of people don't really talk about or give them their credit for what they done in the game and what they done for the city. So, you know, I want to kind of dive into it and, you know, give y'all a little bit of history for those who ain't familiar. And I mean, most of y'all probably are familiar, but y'all might not know, you know, the intricate details of their story. So I did some research and, you know, I want to put it down like this. So off top, it was 3 of them initially. We know the group to be Mr. and Bubonic. They the ones who got signed and made it major. And, you know, the videos on, you know, had them playing on MTV, stuff like that. And, you know, they was down with Pharrell, Neptunes, I mean, all of that. But in the beginning, it was 3 of them. And Bubonic had explained in an interview with No Jumper recently, like what happened to the 3rd member of the group before they actually popped off. You know, similar to Chris and Neef's situation too, because initially the Young Guns was a 3-man group before they got on. So it's a similar situation with Philly's Most Wanted. Now the 3rd member, I ain't too sure of his name exactly, but I kind of pieced it together from 2 different sources. So one of them, I did an interview with Murder Mill a little minute ago, and he had mentioned it because, you know, they had battled Most Wanted, and I'm gonna get into that story too.
And at the time, it was some boys from over Southwest that was talking crazy. They wanted to battle, and I mean, shout out to Most Wanted, you know what I mean. At the time, Most Wanted, it was 3 of them. It wasn't 2. My man Nas was over there on Most Wanted side. So they screaming like, you know, ain't nobody could fuck with us. We ready to sign a deal. We ready to go to Roc-A-Fella. You know what I mean? They got the streets backing them, the whole Southwest. They got major players behind them up there as well.
But he had referenced them as my man Nas. But if y'all go back to one of those early freestyles when you had Beanie Siegel, Major Figures, and Most Wanted, and they all was rapping, you know what I mean, going back and forth. I believe they was on the radio, my Come Up show, I believe. And first, you know, Bubonic rap, then Mr. Man rap, and then another guy came on right after them screaming Most Wanted 5-5. He said his name was Montana.
Most Wanted, Montana, 5-5, yeah, refugee camp, yeah.
Know what I mean? So I'm assuming that that's the 3rd member, and I'm assuming his name was Montana. I don't know if his nickname was Nas. That's why Murder Mill has said that. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe somebody that's watching this might know a little bit more about like who he was and can explain exactly who he is. But that's who I'm assuming it was, Montana, because he rapped right after them and he was screaming out Philly's Most Wanted and 5-5, referencing, you know, 55th Street and Southwest. So that was the 3rd member of Most Wanted before they popped up. Man, what happened was, why he ended up getting out the group was them 3 was going to go do a deal. They had some deals on the table. So I'm going to back up a little bit. They had some deals on the table, you know, and the situation with Beans came about, whereas though Murder Mill and Beans. Murder Mill told the story. Him and Beans, they battled each other. Then they got cool, and then they knew about Most Wanted in them, Southwest. So they went ahead and went down to battle them.
So I slide up. I go get Mac for the joint for the battle. Mac got 5, 6, 7 grand on him. We slide up the Southwest to the crib that Most Wanted was at. It's Bubonic, Mr. They playing at Destiny's Child first joint. I'm never gonna forget it. That no. Yeah. They got the instrumental on. So we going there. Them niggas is talking crazy. They going in and out. They talking cute too. They talking some shit. So Mac hear him. Okay, Mac go. Now I go. Now Bubonic go. Now Mr. go. But they had like an industry type flow. They was coming like, that the hook was supposed to come on after they got done rapping. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of that joint, Mac just took it. He just went. He murdered. Don't even go no more. I'm going. Mac just went, ha! At the end of that joint, when it's time to say who won or lose, they know who won, you know what I'm saying? We know who won by them calling Mac back. They wind up taking Mac up the label, the deal they was talking about that they had, they wind up taking Mac back up to New York to their deal to go talk to Jay-Z. That's how Mac got signed, going up there from that battle. They took him up there, Mac got signed. The rest is history.
So when they went to battle them, after they battled, they was feeling Beans. Like, they pulled Beans to the side, but Lee Bubonic did pull Beans to the side, hollered at him, and was letting him know, like, yo, we got a meeting with Roc-A-Fella. You should ride up there with us, basically. One thing I heard, I want you to clarify or, confirm if it's true, is that y'all actually was the ones who took Beans to rap for Roc-A-Fella or rap for Jay-Z or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, give me that story, because I definitely heard about that before, but I never really heard the whole story.
All right, so you know how it go. The truth never be told, but from my mouth, I was there. So what happened, we met Jay and Dame and them due to my old heads from Southwest, Stevie G. You probably know him Against All Odds right now. He still do his thing or whatever. We were in Jamaica in 1998. That's when he was fresh off the Reasonable Doubt shit. It was still circulating. We met Jay, Dame, Tata, and all them. Actually on a banana boat in the middle of the ocean. That's how we met them. And they was just shocked and amazed that it was some young boys out there and we rapped for him and all that due to Sadiq. We rapped for him or whatever. But they was just amazed that we was in Jamaica with them older niggas at like 16 years old in October. So that's how we built the relationship with Jay.
And Beans told the story on Drink Champs with Nori about how he was supposed to go up there, but he didn't really want to go. He was trying to duck him or whatever because he had some bread on some dog fight, and he was trying to make some bread off of that. But they ended up being on his top, like hitting him up, and then sliding up on him, so he had no choice but to go. So when he went up there, when Beans went up there with Most Wanted, at the time, I think it was Mr. Montana and Beans. I don't think Bubonic was there this time, the first time he went. Bubonic explained that in the interview, that he wasn't there that time. So it's probably more than likely Mr. Montana and Beans riding up there with their manager. They go up to Jay's studio, and they all rapping. They rapping with some New York dudes, and it turned into like a battle. Beans explained this in the interview too when he did with Drink Champs. Like, it kind of turned into a little battle, but Beans wasn't rapping at first. It was, I guess, I'm just Mr. Montana rapping against the New York dudes. Dane was in there, and then Jay eventually came in there. So they was rapping for a minute, and then Beans said, according to Beans, one of the New York dudes had said something slick about Philly, like Philly dudes or something. And then that made Beans jump in it. And then when Beans jumped in it, according to him, like, the energy changed, and Dame started tapping in, and And then the whole started tapping in like, oh, I mean, like, get surprised to hear how nice he was. And then according to Bubonic, after that situation, their manager was like sliding with Beans and acting like Beans was the guy. He was trying to manage Beans and try to get Beans on because he seen how interested Jay and Dane was in Beans. So he kind of was like, I mean, like pushing Most Wanted to the side, so to speak, and like trying to back Beans for the most part. And that situation with Beans kind of fell through. Like, I guess he didn't end up being Beans' manager, ended up getting in the door with Beans when Beans ended up getting signed with Roc-A-Fella. But that's how Beans got signed to the Rock, coming through there with Most Wanted. I mean, he ain't go up there expecting to rap. He ain't go up there expecting to be down with them. He just happened to rap and they was feeling him. So then, after the situation with their manager didn't go through with Beans, according to Bubonic, he started going with the other guy who was the third member of the group. He started slotting behind him and trying to push him like as a solo artist and like telling him basically what Bubonic was saying. He was piping him up, making him think he was the best in the group and that he should do it by himself and be solo. So at this time, they had a situation with Atlantic on the table that they was ready to sign to, and I think they actually signed. So after the manager was piping up the third member to go solo, he actually started buying into it and wanted to go solo. So they said him and the manager basically went to Atlantic directly and was like, yo, I want to be a solo artist. I don't want to be in this group. And Atlantic was like, I mean, I basically wasn't with that. Like, nah, like, man, like, so like they was like, well, basically like, all right, we cool with you doing your own thing, but we not trying to sign you as a solo artist. Like, you could do your own thing and that's what you want to do, but we not going to sign you. So you can basically give us the bread back that we gave you to be a part of this deal in this group. You get that money back and you're a free agent. You could do what you do. So it didn't work out for him and the manager the way they thought. They thought they was going to be able to get a solo deal with Atlantic, but they ended up with no deal at all and had to, lead the situation. So Bubonic explained like the label didn't really want him in the group anyway. They didn't think he fit, or they wasn't really feeling him really for real. They really was just feeling Mr. Bubonic. So him going to them, trying to get a solo situation kind of made it easier for them because they didn't really want him in the group anyway. So then I don't know what happened to him after that or what his moves was after that, but according to Bubonic, that was the situation. Them two signed to Atlantic and they became the two-man group that we know of today. Shortly after signing to Atlantic, they ended up linking with Pharrell, meeting Pharrell. And Pharrell, I mean, they said they went in the studio. He was in a room in the studio on the phone with somebody talking. And he said they just went in the room and just started rapping for him and just spitting. And then eventually he just hung up the phone because he was tapping into what they was rapping about. And then he decided he wanted to work with him off top.
Mr. is like, he's laid back and he's aggressive when he has to be. He's laid back, and that's sort of how his vocals come out in the end. It's just like very laid back, but there's definitely like an aggressive side, an aggressive undertone, which lets you know that vocally he feels like, he's confident. He's not worried about anybody taking his spot. He's gonna do what he's gotta do. And, don't take his kindness for weakness. That's usually what leads to when they're battling and stuff. That's usually what leads to like their opponents being destroyed because you take them lightly because they rhyme so easily. They take situations so lightly, and then you end up being lackadaisical, and then you lose.
He was feeling them. Mind you, he had already had the clips signed at this time. According to Bubonic, the clips was already signed with Pharrell, but he started working with Philly's Most Wanted first. So they was like one of the early groups, if not the first hip-hop group to actually start working with the Neptunes and had their stuff out there. Like, they produced like they majority of their first album, Get Down to Lay Down. So all them little singles they was coming out with from, the early John Suckers. If you from Philly around that area, you remember that joint. Then they hit him with the cross the border joint, please don't mind, all that, you know, all them type joints. Like Pharrell and the Neptunes was behind, you know, a lot of them songs early on. So they got to work with Pharrell and Neptunes like early, before even the clips dropped with them. Know what I mean? Before Nori, I believe, like if I ain't mistaken. Like, so this was like 2000, around like 2000. Yeah, 2000, 2001 time. They doing their thing with that. You know, they moved to Atlanta at that time too. They ended up moving to Atlanta in 2000, so they was down there early. You know, it's a thing now for everybody to be down in Atlanta, move down to Atlanta, but they went down there back in 2000. They was living down there. And mind you, Mr. and Boo, they like brothers. They been pretty much living together since they was kids. Like once they met at like 8 or 9 years old, at some point in time, shortly after that, you know, they ended up living together. Like Bubonic and Mr. Man, I think he moved in with Mr. and Mr. Mom, like took care of both of them and raised them. So they was raised like brothers. So they always been living together. Know what I mean? For the most part, so when they moved to Atlanta, they moved to Atlanta together. They started real young rapping and stuff like that. So even, I got backtrack. So before they even got down with Atlantic and all of that, they was down with the Fugees. I don't think they was officially signed to them. But they was like 14, 15 years old in high school, you know, did some work on Pride's album. I believe the Ghetto Superstar joint. Like, so they been together for a long time putting in work. So now they get they just due in the industry with Atlantic, put out the album. The album didn't really do like crazy commercially, but they had, you know, the single Cross the Border definitely hit, you know, 98 on the top 100 Billboard charts, and it was number 3 on Billboard Hot Rap Singles. So that thing definitely popped. But the album didn't really do much. It only reached like number 69 on the Billboard 200. And that's, I mean, a big reason for why it didn't pop off as much as they ain't really have no support from BET. Like, they had the Cross the Border video, but BET wasn't trying really, I mean, support that, because they figured it was, you know, it was about, you know, smuggling drugs across the border, you know what I mean? So they didn't really want to support that. So they had, I think it played on MTV if I ain't mistaken, but I don't think they had, you know, the BET support. So, you know, after the album didn't do what it was supposed to do, you know, shortly after that, you know, Neptunes and Atlantic Records, they ended up, you know, getting off that label and severing ties with them, so to speak. And then sometime after that, they ended up signing with Universal. And sometime later, they dropped their second album called Ring the Alarm. But, I mean, it didn't do, I mean, it definitely ain't do what they hoped it would do. I think it ain't do it. I don't think it did better than the first one. I think it probably, you know, did even less than that one. So, you know, Bubonic explained they was living in Atlanta, and, you know, they ran through their money, I mean, tricking off Magic City, all that. They pretty much went broke. And then Mr. ended up moving back to Philly. I mean, like, so, and Bubonic explained, like, out of the nowhere, like, he didn't expect that to happen. So Bubonic Mr. pretty much, like, wanted to leave the rap game alone and, like, pivot and do something different. Like, so he ended up moving to Philly. And, you know, Bubonic stayed in Atlanta for a period of time. So after they big major success and all of that, Mr. Man ended up going into, like, real estate, started messing with the cribs, he started a cleaning company, and he pretty much went hard with that. And Bubonic, he ended up, you know, getting into the art game, like, and becoming a real artist, and he started doing this thing with that, moved out, like, Cali, LA area, whatever, and started doing his thing with that, and that's pretty much what they doing today. They dabbled in little stuff, music-wise, over the years, dropped little songs and little videos and stuff separately on, like, on their own type time, but they never really pushed through full throttle, never, I guess God never deal, or none of that type of stuff. And then eventually they just both really just fell back from the music altogether, and just went full throttle in their respective fields. And they explained too that that always was the plan at some point in time. Like, cause Bubonic said he had a passion for art as a kid, so at some point in time he always, had the inkling to go in that lane, in that direction at some point in time. And Mr. said he always had, passion for the cribs and wanted to get in real estate, so he always had a plan to get into that at some point in time. So they pretty much both ended up doing what they essentially both wanted to do. And from what I see, they both been successful in each of their respective fields. Like, I did an interview with Mr. Man like 3 years ago, something like that, that was supposed to drop, but we never put it out, and a lot of people was looking for it because I put some clips up for the interview to come out. And a lot of people was wondering why we never dropped it, and that was because Mr., we did that joint, like him and Vig was working together, him and Vegas, Nevada. At the time, they was doing some little work together on some Southwest stuff. Like, he wasn't really trying to rap, but Vig, he had a good relationship with Vig, so he was really trying to help Vig and push Vig, so he was jumping back in it to a degree to kind of help his man out or whatever.
The producer, Ice from Nam, he play a beat. Because they always be like, yo, come on, man, come on, want me to rap or whatever. So I said, I'll do a hook. I did a hook. Vague walk in with my man Lil. My man Lil just come home from doing 20 years too. So I'm like, after the hook playing, I'm like, yo, write a verse. Cause it ain't like we already know each other, so we ain't got to, you know what I'm saying? I wrote my verse, did it. He wrote his verse, did it. And it's the video that we doing. That was only a week ago. We put it on Instagram, motherfuckers went crazy. Like, I'm glad Southwest back, I'm glad y'all together, da-da-da-da. We said, fuck it. So he was already starting his label. And, we got mutual respect for each other because of where we come from and all that. So he like, yo, be a part of, be a CEO, I'm gonna be a CEO. What you hearing from me today, that's just the launch record. So motherfuckers can know it ain't just him out here from our end. You know what I mean? He's certified on that other shit. I'm certified on the player shit, so you getting it from both ends. You feel me? And that record, we gonna launch that, put it out. Let it go crazy on the internet, put it all, let the bloggers go crazy, let the real sites go crazy, and then after that, it's all him. We're gonna do a 6-song EP, right? Videos for all of them, which is gonna combine at the end of the day to a documentary to tell you his real story. So if you're hearing about him now and you liking him, he got a real story from growing up from his mom, him, his brother, and just being from our hood, being certified. So that's what we bringing, that's the whole marketing strategy. So as I'm telling it to you, it's gonna start revealing itself in the next, say like a month.
So at this time, they both were shooting a video in Southwest, and they had told me to come through so we could do an interview with both of them, actually. So we did the interview in this little, I guess like a store, studio type joint, house type joint. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like some type of space where they were shooting a scene of their video at. And then we had stepped to the side and did the interview, and the interview was good money from my perspective. Like, it was good money. But after we did it, and I chopped it up and showed it to him, he had said, hey, I like it, but I want to do it bigger. I want to do it on some, like, next level. I want to do it that. And I mean, he was, like, talking about how he wanted to make it, like, on some next level, super extra. I mean, whatever. Like, he just ain't wanted to be a plain interview, him just standing there talking. He wanted to make it look good and, I mean, make it look like some money and all this stuff, like him and Vig. So, but we never ended up doing this, so I scrapped the interview because he didn't want to put that one out. But we never ended up doing another one. So that's why we never got the story out. But when I did interview him, he did give me a lot of the background about them and what happened and stuff like that, the bean stuff and all of that. He definitely explained that. And, yeah, but I was mad. A lot of people hit me up like, why the interview ain't come out? Because I thought it'd have been a good job, but, he ain't want to put it out, so we ain't put it out. But, it seemed like they both, like I said, I follow, I don't think Mr. Man on Instagram right now because I ain't seen his page. I ain't seen him pop up on there. He used to have a job back then when he was messing with Vig, but I don't know if he still do or if he still be on social media, but Bubonic be on social media. He be posting, stuff that he doing with the art and all that stuff. So it looked like they both doing their thing, both successful. both living their life. I have no idea what happened to the third member. I mean, maybe he'll see this and hear about this, and, you know, maybe he'll come forward, do a little interview or something like that, or put his side of the story out there so people can know, like, what happened to the third member and how he feel about, you know, once he left the group and then they made it big and, you know, they had them singles out and, I mean, working with Pharrell and all that, like, so he might want to tell his story at some point in time. I mean, but, you know, I probably missed some stuff, and I mean, touched on some stuff, you know, as far as them, like, you know, let's jump back a little bit. So, before they got on, they used to be in the city running around battling, you know, they battled damn near everybody who was around at the time that we knew about. You know, they battled Beans, Murder Mill, I mean, Major Figures. All of them used to battle each other and cypher together. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was a whole thing in the city. I mean, I did the interview with Murder Mill, and he explained how they had a house called Cousin M's where all the rappers used to come through down South Philly. Bubonic and them explained that they had a crib that everybody used to come through and rap because they was actually managed by, early on, one of their early managers was Stevie G. And Stevie G ended up, you know, managing, if y'all know y'all history, he ended up managing, you know, a lot of the people out of Philly, where he had his hand in helping a lot of them early people in Philly get deals. Sadiq and Ruler, if y'all familiar with them names, you know, Black Friday, Management, Mark Byers, Sherman Byers, they eventually was managing Mr. Bubonic at one point in time too. Like, and you know, they was behind Beans and all them, Eve, Black Friday Management, you know, so they was definitely tied in with some Philly guys, Philly managers and all that. Then when they popped off, you know, Philly was on fire because they all was on at the same time. You know, Beans was at Roc-A-Fella. Most Wanted got on, they was with Atlantic. You know, Eve was on, Major Figures was on, everybody. You know, the city was lit at the time. So that was a time in the city where, you know, early on for my era, late 90s, early 2000s, Philly, like, that's what it was, I mean, that's it for this episode, you know. Tap in the comments, let me know, I mean, if y'all got some more history about they story that I forgot to mention. If y'all know some more information about the third member, I mean, for sure, share that information in the comments. And if y'all want me to do a joint on somebody else, or another group, or another artist from the city, or anybody, and I mean, from the city that y'all want me to do a story on, or what happened to them and where are they now, leave that in the comments. I mean, I plan on doing I plan on doing a nice amount of these. Try and make this into a nice little series. I mean, if y'all want it, let it be known. Like, so that's it for now. We signing out. Philly Fame TV, and I'll catch y'all on the next episode. Salute to everybody that tuned in. Like and subscribe if you ain't already subscribed to the channel. And we out of here.